on time. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the workshop of the Arlington City Council of November 14th, 2022 together, and if we would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Julie, would you like to take the roll, please?
Sure. Heather Logan.
Here.
Marilyn Ertley.
Here.
Jan Schweddy.
Here.
Michelle Blythe.
Here.
Dawn Vanny via Zoom.
Here.
Mayor Tolbert. Yvonne Gallardo. Deborah Nelson are excused.
Okay. Is Yvonne not going to be here? Do we know that?
Yeah, she's not going to be here.
Okay, thank you.
I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Question.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Our first workshop item tonight is the resolution for WashDOT grant for the airport. Marty Way.
Good evening, council members. We're asking for you to look over a resolution for a WashDOT grant this evening. To apply for the WashDOT grant, the airport must submit a signed assurance in the form of a resolution that local matching funds are available and authorized for the proposed grant project. The project is a grant for solar that we're talking about putting on the roof of the admin building over there. Airport staff applied for state funding for the Arlington Airport admin building solar project. The project is estimated to cost $385,000. It involves following design, procurement, install, and solar PV array for the Arlington Airport admin building. The airport has requested the DOT grant of $250,000 towards this project as part of their Sustainable Aviation Grant funding. We've been successful with grants in the past coming from WashDOT. We have not received this grant. We've applied for it, and in lieu of getting it, we'd like a resolution. Any
Okay, I'd like
questions?
to ask a question. Now, this is going to be on the office building on the roof.
On the building, yeah, the roof. We have a couple of different options, but what we're proposing is the roof of the admin building at the airport.
Now, what direction is that going to face? Is that north, south, east, west?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a
Oh, yeah.
study that's entailed in that maximizes how you can do that. That's why I
Right.
say we have a few options. The way the building is oriented, it's got a lot of different angles to the roof line. We're pretty confident that we're going to be able to get enough solar panels to make a pretty significant impact. And then we will still have some spots where we're obviously not going to be able to get as much sunlight.
Right.
I suspect on the north side that slopes off a little bit, but we have quite a bit of available space.
Oh, yeah, and,
Yeah.
and I know people who've done that, and it makes a difference which direction you're
Yeah, it
pointing for how much you get. So, and this is kind of a little bit beyond, but do we not have charging stations already set up in the parking lot out at the airport?
We do not currently. We've been waiting to kind of get a standard type so that we're not putting in something that's going to be a different product in the rest of the city. So we're kind of waiting. We're working with Public Works in that. And when we have a standard set up, we're going to go ahead and install it. We've been researching it. We have a couple of different options, but nothing nailed down yet. But as soon as we do, we've got locations planned for them at the airport, a minimum of 2, possibly 4 stations, and the capacity to run them. That we have that with the emergency generator and the building both. So we're in pretty good shape. We just have to decide what type are we going to use. So they're all kind of standard. We want to keep it the same.
No, I'm glad to, I mean, I know you've been talking about that for some time, and I guess I hadn't thought about the fact of everyone needs to coordinate together and do it right, and that's perfect. So we're good, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Okay.
Heather has.
Oh, Heather, I'm sorry. I'll have to get used to this.
Marty, I see that you're applying for the grant for 250 and the cost of the project is 385 and change.
385.
Where does the balance come from? It shows here budgeted amount 0, so,
Yeah, the balance comes from the airport fund, general
Okay.
fund for the airport, or the enterprise fund. We have the budget for it. We need the blessing of the council in order to give a resolution for the balance. That's what they're looking for too. When they make that decision in giving up, assigning grants, they want to make sure that the city is behind it and will support the grant, whatever the balance is, because WashDOTs have a little bit more disparity as opposed to FAA grants.
so does the resolution need to reflect, so I'm trying to do the math in my head, 50 and 85,
The balance.
135.5?
Yeah,
I see. Okay, and you have that in the airport fund?
yes.
Even if it were unbudgeted for?
That's correct.
Yes, okay, great,
There's
thank you.
there's plenty of funding for it. We just didn't budget for it until we get the grant.
Yeah, I understand now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item is the police quarterly report. Mike Gilbert. Lieutenant Mike Gilbert.
Good evening, council members. Thank you. Just a little rundown of our report and update for the third quarter. Our staffing continues to improve. The department would like to thank the city for working with us to make that happen. We're currently sitting at 34 of our 37 FTEs, with 2 police officers and 1 limited commission position yet to be filled. Both of our represented groups are currently working under current contract. Our challenges for the department continue to be our minimum staffing overtime. We're hoping with the addition of the rest of our personnel and as they come off training, we can curtail most of that. And that the police impound is still at a month-to-month lease. Some opportunities that have come up for us. We recently started our hotspot policing, which is targeted policing in areas where crime is higher than other places in the city. With the limited feedback I've got from our short time running right now, that seems to be working. Police calls for service are going down in those areas. We're currently working with the city of Arlington and other outside partners in developing and expanding our wellness program for the police department. And again, we appreciate the city's working with us on that. That'll be very beneficial to our staff members. And we continue to work on recruitment and retention to fill the spots we have. Highlights we have for the quarter, Officer Schumann and Enthusiasts have cleared their FTO program and now are in the solo officer phase in the department. We currently have 2 student officers in the FTO program right now with a tentative first of the year timeframe for finish, and 2 student officers at the academy down at Blia with ending dates. They should have graduation dates sometime first part of next year, February or March. We'd like to welcome Terry Jo Jensen and Amy Hotz to our police technicians. They were hired recently and now fill those 2 vacant record staff positions. And one of the hotter calls we had over the quarter was the armed robbery at the Timbers apartment complex. And the 3 juvenile suspects have been arrested in that incident. So, and then our new officers now have all completed their OC training and went up to the Reserve Academy and went through the OC training up there. And they did it with very good attitudes. And to finish off with, we are currently still, and will continue to do so, meet with local businesses and create partnerships and discuss strategies to curb crime within our businesses in the Arlington area. Thank you.
I have a comment. I thought this would be a good time to share. Someone in our neighborhood needed to call for assistance, and had the pleasure of interacting with Officer Marshall and said he was exceptional and just so incredibly friendly and professional. So thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Yes, Heather.
Lieutenant Gilbert, I'm curious, when you meet with the businesses, and there's actually quite an array of stuff they can do to improve outcomes, are they open to that message, willing to do that work, or are they looking for a different avenue?
So I've got a meeting scheduled Thursday with another business. I've met with the Stillaguamish, I'm forgetting the name of it, right there off 174th there. The health building there, took over the old Alfie's.
Oh,
And we
Right,
discussed
Silver
several,
Valley Health.
we discussed several options they could have to strengthen their stance on crime and folks congregating around that building, because they have that washout retention area that seems to bring people's into that area at night. So what they did is they added a couple lights at my suggestion and moved a couple cameras around so that they would hit those strategic areas where we could, at least if anything, if something did happen, we could ID those folks there. I just got an email from one of them this morning for some tagging that occurred, and they're gonna send me the email so I could at least see who that suspect is and put it out and see if we can identify him. So up till now, everybody I've met with has been very open to it, and we've been open to any suggestions they have for us as well.
Oh, great, good to hear, thank you.
I actually had somebody in my neighborhood mention the fact that lately they have seen less homeless at Smoky Point. I've been up there multiple times checking out, the transit, because when people complain, and they're really good about keeping it clean and everything. But I was surprised to hear so soon after you guys talked, so it's making a difference. One thing, if you would bring me a little bit, because I totally forgot, the police impound building, now that's part of the new construction with M&O, isn't it?
I can address that. for
Oh,
you,
okay.
Mike, and that- Yeah, we budgeted for that. It's actually part of the budget that we put together for Station 48 was some improvements on the M&O building and the impound building. And so we've come up with some ideas there. We're gonna repurpose some of the old Public Works area there where they did the composting.
Oh, uh-huh.
It's just a matter of staff time to get it worked out with the architect and get the design done. So we know where we're going with it. It's just everybody's schedule's been so busy that it's, we just have had a tough time getting to it, but it's definitely on our list to do.
Yeah, I knew it was there. It was just that I just keep seeing month-to-month leases and
Yeah.
not sure where we're going with that. Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else have any questions?
I just wanted to say,
Can I remind you to just, your microphones, I know in the,
you ready?
that's creating a little bit of a barrier, but the Zoom won't pick it up.
I can't see him further. Okay, I just wanted to say that with the problems at Smoky Point, my granddaughter went to get her tires changed on a car at Walmart, and it was in the evening. She was the last. She went after she got off work, and she went and, she had the tires changed, and she did some shopping, and she thought, I'm just afraid to go out into the parking lot. So they were nice enough to take her out to her car and help her put her groceries in the car and make sure she was okay. So I felt like that was good, that she had, she's 22, and, to realize that she needed to ask for assistance, and they were more than willing to give it. So I felt like that was a good thing.
Yeah, Walmart's been very good for
Yeah,
us. in
but it's a
recent
scary
years.
place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if we're, you'll have to holler, Don, if you need anything.
I'll let you know.
Okay, he doesn't have a button. Okay, our next item is the fire quarterly report. David Kresge.
Yes, thank you, Councilman Schweddy and staff, the rest of the council members. Just same as Mike, I'm just doing the quarterly report for fire and EMS. It's a little bit outdated in that it's July, August, and September. But Everything is going well. Our call volume is up, actually quite a bit over 2021. We're going to finish the year about 14% higher call volume, which is quite a bit more than we expected. Transports are also up, which is twofold. It's good in the sense that transports are revenue, but that's bad in the sense that means we're taking citizens to the hospital. But transports are also up, and our times for the city, so we track our times, our turnout time and our response time and everything very, very closely. And our turnout times since we joined North County RFA are actually down in the city, just slightly, about 10 to 15 seconds. And the primary reason that is our staffing model really hasn't changed, but we're doing move-ups. Just to explain for a little bit, so if the crew here at Station 46 behind the hardware store is out, we will move the crew from Cackman Road up at Station 90, which is kind of up near the casino. We'll move them to town. So we do that in Arlington and in Stanwood. So we have 3 busy stations, 46, 48 at Smoky Point, and 99 in Stanwood, and they're kind of supported by two slower stations. So we move them up to Arlington or Stanwood if that crew is out. So it just makes the response times for second up calls less. So works really effective. So our calls are good. As far as our call percentages, EMS and fire, it really doesn't change. It's about 85% in EMS and 15% fire and motor vehicle accidents and things. The second page of the report that you had in your packet is just a mutual aid given and received. We track that very closely, and Chief Cermak is actually kind of working with an outside consulting company now on getting some really several years data on mutual aid, because as overall North County provides more mutual aid than we receive, and so we're going to have some conversations with the neighbors upcoming about that. Kind of some things that I just highlighted going down the left-hand column. It's just some things. Some of the Arlington events is we participated in the 4th of July events, National Night Out, the Arlington Airport, the Sky Fest, which used to be the Fly-In. Airport Appreciation Day, we had a September 11th event in Arlington and Stanwood. For the first time around September 11th, we had the 5th graders from Post Middle School. This was something we'd done for years, and then we didn't do it for a few years during COVID. So Post Middle School, the 5th graders walk down, we break them into 3 groups, and they spend about 15 to 20 minutes in each group. And so we had several hours of that going on with the students coming down. And then during COVID, all public education and fire inspections were ceased. We didn't do any of that. So the crews have been out doing a lot of inspections, especially in this latter half of 2022 in Arlington and Stanwood. And this fall, right now, we're getting very active in the schools. So we haven't done that in years. So that's actually taking place right now. This is some side notes that I had is budget-wise, Marilyn will remember this, and Paul, and when we formed the RFA, Randy and Kristen modeled out a 7-year financial model, and we were forecasted to dip into reserves 2 times in the first few years of the RFA, and we haven't. We're actually, we're going to finish 22 about $1 million under budget, so we're operating in the black, which is really good to report. We're in the 23 budget process now. The training center, which North County launched into just shortly before we joined, is well underway. Kind of should be wrapping up completion in the spring of 23. Some things that are going on. There's about 18 shipping container Connex boxes that configure in a stack on top of each other and configure to that is the bulk of the facility, and those are set to be delivered in like mid-February. They'll be trucked up from California and stacked on top and configured. A lot of the underground utility work is going on or just wrapping up. The restroom facility just got completed. One of the, I don't know if it's Burlington Northern, I'll say, one of the railroad companies is donating 2 really large, if you can visualize a railroad car that's the big tanker car, like a big, they're donating 2 of those. That's going to be the underground water storage for the facility. So the water that's used for the fire training. So that'll drain down into manholes and end up in these tanks, and then we'll reuse that water. It's just filtered, so it's non-potable. But we'll reuse the water. They have to be underground now because other facilities that had above ground ponds, so to speak, right, the water gets a lot of carcinogens in it, so it's not good for birds and that sort of thing. So those 2 big tanks are being delivered to Stanwood, to the railroad spur, and they'll be pulled off, and then there's a big crane that'll come and pick them off and be trucked up. So a lot going on there. A new fire engine we took delivery of just about a week ago. It's not in service yet, but it will be in probably about a month, and I think I'll coordinate bringing it here to a council meeting ahead of time so you can see it, because it'll be at Station 46, so it'll be a new fire engine here in downtown Arlington. And just lastly, the Santa Run, the community's big event, is well underway. I was emailing Paul and staff today, so we've got it's all underway. So it'll start on that first Friday in February, which is the 2nd, and it runs for about 15 days consecutively in Arlington and Stanwood. So I think when Mandy and Sarah helped me post it to the city website today with the dates and the maps and things, so all of that is well underway, and all of you are more than welcome to participate. Happy to answer any questions.
I think you meant December,
December, what did I say?
February.
Oh, that wouldn't be good? No?
I'm thinking
We-
Valentine's Day.
It's not a
but-
it's not a Valentine food drive.
No, it's okay. I was actually paying attention.
Okay, thanks, Marilyn.
It's great to see you.
Thank you, Michelle. Nice to see you.
My question is not nearly as much fun as Marilyn's comment. Can you help me understand the 14% rise? Is that period to period compared this year to last year?
Year to date. Yeah.
Year to date?
So we are, we're on target. So we took our call volume in 2021, and where we are today in 22,
ahead.
and it's forecasted that it's going to end about 14% above if we keep at this same pace.
Do you guys have any guesses what that's attributable to?
Community growth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and actually,
I would
just
say.
curious, so the windstorm 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, on that day, that was the single busiest day in the history of the dispatch center.
Oh, wow.
So, crazy, crazy day.
Yeah.
I bet, yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
anyone,
Yes.
you have a question?
No.
Okay, I have one question. On that second sheet, could you tell me why there were so many trips to Marysville? I mean, it outspaced everybody, over 200 on both sides.
Yeah, so Marysville is, the numbers are so high because it's in perspective with their call volume, right? So they're, I don't know the number exactly, but I'm going to say we're going to close the year with about 10,000 calls for 2022, and I'll just say Marysville is going to be 15 to 17,000 calls. So it's that the number is proportionally so much higher just because of their call volume. And so that Smoky Point area, just with the way that the city boundaries line up, is we run each other's calls all day long. If we're out, they're running our calls, and if they're out, we're running their calls. We're crossing paths regularly.
So we're not necessarily making those over 200 calls, it's just all of the ones up in that area?
Yep, so we were in that, the aid 2 is that column on the left. So we were dispatched to Marysville 204 times, and in perspective, they were dispatched to us, this is terrible in this light, 258 times, 56 times. But the important thing to note is the hours. So we gave them about 90 hours, just under 100 hours of service versus about 64 hours of service. And that's primarily because when we go to Marysville, we do a lot of transports, and they don't transport as much when they come to Arlington. So that's the
Oh, okay.
higher number of them coming to Arlington, but lower hour acuity.
This is a curiosity question, but when Marysville EMTs take individuals to the hospital, do they bring it to ours, or do they take them into Everett?
Depends on the nature of the call.
Oh, okay.
So some things automatically will go to Providence, and then it's usually driven by the patient where they would like to go.
Okay.
Right. Sometimes if the volume in the hospitals is really high, then what we have a center that clears the calls, and they tell us which facilities to go to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yes,
Appreciate that, guys.
absolutely. I will just close by, when I listened to Mike's report, I remember early on, 3 or 4 years ago, when we started the discussions about the RFA, Jonathan told me early on, he said, no one will be a bigger cheerleader for the RFA than me. And he was through the whole process, and it really, there's pros and cons to the way the whole RFA worked out, but fire and EMS moving away from the city provided additional funding for the police, which we knew, right? That was part of the goal.
Exactly, yes.
So it's funny, when I listen to your report, I'm like, Jonathan was right.
Okay, that's our business, and Paul, did you have anything for this evening?
Nothing else this evening,
Okay.
thank you.
And I don't have anything, any comments from the council members? Yes, Heather.
I just wanted to, oops, make my screen too big for me to read. I just wanted to give some information to council, some updates from the Board of Health that you know that I serve on.
Oh, yes.
So the update on county integration, there were some spots there where people were like, wow, are we going to make that deadline? And it looks like, yes, work groups are currently hitting all their milestones. The risk of missing the January 1 live date is decreasing, and most activities now are on the task level, no longer at the planning or strategic level, with a lot of IT and HR work. Of course, all those employees have to be rolled in. Some bad news on fentanyl. The new stuff that's making its way to our neck of the woods is adulterated with xylazine, which is an animal analgesic. Consequently, we're seeing an uptick again in fentanyl overdose deaths, probably because xylazine does not respond to Narcan.
Wow.
Really nasty stuff.
Really?
Yep. We have 2 new COVID variants headed our way. They're called BQ1 and BQ1-1. Dr. Lewis believes that we've hit the bottom for counts. It's really low right now, like 43 or 48 per 100,000, but he thinks we're going to be headed back up because of these new variants. Flu has already arrived and is out there, and RSV has put a strain on pediatric bed availability. We're following the Everett Clinic case counts, and they've doubled for each of the last 2 weeks, which is indicative of epidemic counts. One note, it's not all RSV. Some pediatric beds are not available purely because of staffing.
Yeah.
So between RSV, COVID, the flu, and really bad fentanyl, lots going on with public health. Any questions?
Thank you for that update. I
That
really
crummy
appreciate
update.
that.
Yeah,
Well-
thanks, Heather.
You know, you read some things in the paper, and sometimes it swings one way and the other way, and you don't fully understand, but I appreciate you telling us, and that's, boy, that's knowing that there is another, because I thought Snohomish County had one of the highest overdose deaths in the state, and if fentanyl's now going to be worse, then
Yeah.
those numbers are going to go up even more.
Fentanyl is not worth the high. Too much death, and sometimes
Yeah.
after
Terrible, terrible.
one
Yeah.
dose. Yeah.
Do they have information online that would say how many people have overdosed in Snohomish County and in our, say, Arlington? and
Yeah, you can
stuff
look
like
at the
that?
Washington State Department of Health page for that.
Okay,
And it's
okay.
there county by county by county. It's not broken up to individual cities.
City, but by
it is
county.
county by county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, thank you, appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Did we talk about Lieutenant Gilbert's presentation yet at the chamber luncheon? Has it?
No.
Oh, so, and you're like, great.
He thought he was done.
But it was really good. I was curious, did you get a good response after? Because it seemed like there was a lot of questions at the luncheon. Did you have a lot of people ask you questions or reach out after that? Just because you had some good recommendations for them, obviously.
I did. Most of the responses I get from those engagements are emails. Folks will email me shortly after that, and then I respond to every one of them. Again, like I said, I'm meeting Thursday with the group right downtown. Paul and I met with them last week, so I'll be meeting with them this Thursday. Yeah, it was pretty good. I think the one heartache will be the kids on Fridays. And I think the chief's putting together some numbers to see what we can do to, do some focused enforcement on Fridays downtown to address that issue. So we're working on that right now. I know he was pulling the numbers when I left last week, so.
Yeah, some people are really receptive to your recommendations, so
They have
I guess
been
the more
recently,
you get
yeah.
that out there, the more
Yeah, it's
people
been
may.
pretty good recently, and
Yeah.
then as we just put that information out there, I keep getting emails to show up
nice.
at different places.
Well, thank you. It was very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to comment on the same thing, Michelle. That was an outstanding presentation, Mike. And I think a lot of the businesses will probably be following up on some information from you.
Yeah, I don't know whose idea it was to meet with the businesses, but it was, I think, really, really worked. And if you go to the people who are having the issues, you know, as opposed to, say, somebody who's a customer, and we know how we feel, but when you talk to the businesses, and then when I was listening to the guy last week, and his issue was behind his store, and golly, I hadn't even thought about that, but with the ones we have in town and the issues, you know, we need to work all together to figure out what we can do to cut back on some of this. So I appreciate all your work, and yours too, Paul. So do we have an executive session? No? No. Yeah, this is going to be a short one. Okay, that is it for this evening.
Then I would move to adjourn.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned.
Bye, Don.